I'll move forward to our next question. It's a bit of a change of subject. We talked about the West, etc., and I suppose this is very much something of the West. It concerns fast foods, and it's a question which comes from Asif Mullan Sahib from New Malden, right here in England. So Jazakallah Asif for your question. First of all, he says that he enjoys the program very much. Well, thank you for that. And he says it's too short. So that's something for the producers to look at. But nevertheless, he describes himself, he says, I'm a British-born Ahmadi. One thing that is distinctive between Ahmadi Muslims and the majority of the Ummah is that we still eat non-halal meat, such as McDonald's or KFC. That's Kentucky Fried Chicken, for those who are not familiar with the acronym there. Compared to a vegetarian or halal option, what is the background behind being allowed to eat this, and should we continue to do this in modern Britain? And I believe we had a similar question from Ismail Chaudhry as well, and both for Ismail and Asif Saabs. I'll come to you, Dr. Saab, first of all. Well, KFC and McDonald's.
In parts, this question has been answered from certain angles before. But it's obviously an important issue because the question has been raised once again. What we obviously always feel is that we have other options that we can take. There are some halal KFC shops and so on. So wherever it is possible, one should avoid non-halal food, of course, and that is the primary aim. However, we should also consider, as far as slaughtering is concerned, is what is the commandments of Allah as far as making something halal. And what we have to bear in mind is that if something is slaughtered in the fashion that we do, by making sure that the blood is completely let out of the animal, and the spinal cord is not cut so that the pumping continues and the blood is completely drained, and if the name of no other god has been pronounced on an animal, then that does not make it haram as such. So keeping that in mind, we obviously have to make wise choices as to what is permitted in that respect. And we know that in this country, when slaughterhouses have been approached, that they do slaughter in that sense where the blood is let out and that no name of any other god is pronounced on these meats. So from that aspect, you have to consider that as well. Now the third aspect to consider is, let's look into the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and see what was his practice. Of course, halal was the option, but if we also have an incident of the Holy Prophet ﷺ partaking of meat that was slaughtered by non-Muslims, and that had not been slaughtered by pronouncing the name of Allah on it when it was slaughtered. Now the Holy Prophet ﷺ partook of this meat, and therefore we can have no greater example in front of us that he partook of this meat having pronounced the name of Allah before eating it and making it halal. And therefore, if the Prophet ﷺ could make that lawful in that respect, then there is obviously a precedence for us to say that this is a precedence we see in the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and the companions who were with him, where he permitted this meat to be partaken. So this gives us the background, that this is the background of why in certain cases, in exceptions, we can eat if these other conditions are met. But don't make it not the exception but the rule. Don't always go for that option. So when there is an exception, yes, you can partake of it, pronounce the name of Allah on meal as you should, and then partake of it, keeping that in mind.
So just very briefly, I mean, the question's been answered, I think, in a very full and complete manner. But we're actually seeing a response from these companies within America and Europe, and they actually now have branches which are actually used to be kosher, now are indeed halal as well. So I mean, there's a response here from those firms as well, recognizing.
Definitely. Just recently, I took a journey to Bangladesh. On the way, I stopped in Dubai. Right. One of the most shocking scenes I saw in the airport as I was waiting for my next flight, I walked from one end to the other. Along the way, I saw a McDonald's.
Okay.
Now you can imagine this scene, all this discussion we're having
doesn't
about
do that.
halal and haram, and here's McDonald's in Dubai.
Yeah.
Huh? As I came close, I looked over and I saw these three Arab gentlemen, fully garbed, in the long white robes and the headdress, and they're just eating away their McDonald's burgers, So as you say, there has been a worldwide effort to accommodate the Jewish kosher laws and now the Muslim laws of halal and haram. And that is just an effort in those countries to use so-called halal meat.
Yeah.
But the product is exactly the same. So the issue which Dr. Saab is raising is absolutely right. What is the true definition of haram? It's mentioned in the Quran. That these are things that are haram, you cannot eat them. But then the area of halal becomes gray, because there are some times when the meat, which is not completely slaughtered according to the, not slaughtered, but doesn't pronounce the name of Allah on it, the Prophet Muhammad said, then just pronounce the name of Allah, and it's in hadith, it becomes what? Halal. Even though all the conditions were not met, the one missing here was you didn't pronounce that name. The meat is produced by every other manner of slaughtering properly, but the name is missing. So he told his companions that don't question the source if you know it's basically right. Just say Bismillah and you can eat it. And this is, I think, what we're talking about.
And I think it'd be fair to say it's a very pragmatic and common sense approach. You have a choice, and you avoid that which you can avoid, and you make your choices according to what clearly Dr. Zaid's just outlined as well. Gentlemen, thank you, and I hope that does answer the question on McDonald's and KFC, but if there's more elaboration required, I hope in time both Asif, Ismail and anyone else will also write in.